Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. We're today talking about our canopy. Now it's cracked in all 8 corners, which is absolutely nuts to think. It's left us and our lap around Australia completely and utterly stranded. Or has it? So first of all, we're just going to take you through the damage itself. So as I said in the introduction of the video, all 8 corners have cracked. And as you can see by the footage here as well, the cracks are quite significant. Now it could have been from a range of different problems. So problem number one, when you look at some of these welds, it's like they really haven't adhered that well to the actual pieces of alley. The welds sort of just sit up on top of the alley and don't really bond where they should be. So that could have been one of the things. It could have been the workmanship of the TC box. The other thing it could have been is the weight up on top of the roof. We have a distribution rack up on top of the canopy too. Now this helps distribute the weight of that rooftop tent, not just into the corners, but through the bars at the top of the roof. This is something else that really would have helped that situation in that regard. However, it still has cracked all around. So it's not just one particular issue. It could be a magnitude of different issues. Also, we've done a little bit of off-roading here and there, especially in Road, Beachport, South Australia and Victoria as well. But the thing is, we've never really done anything too serious. It's always been relatively simple off-roading. We've never really been that aggressive on the car. So, you know, it's one of those things. But one of the big things when we're stripping this thing down and assessing the damage, it was actually quite an emotional experience, especially for myself. And Yan, when she was giving me a hand, was just talking about the memories we've made in it. As I said, we've gone to South Australia, did a lot of South Australia and Victoria in it. We also did a lot of local trips here as well. So, you know, it's very, very emotional for us because we've met a lot of mates that know us with that particular setup. They can see us coming on the road. They know it's us absolutely 100%. It was unmistakably easy to tell that vehicle out from the rest. So the cause is a little bit of a mystery, to be honest. So we will admit we had a box up on top of the roof rack. So that box actually hit our carport when we actually drove in one day. That come back up onto the rooftop tent and would have put pressure on the canopy itself. There was a massive bang sound, obviously. That was the first thing that I noticed. It disintegrated the box, but it didn't do any obvious damage. The rooftop tent didn't have any damage on it whatsoever. Didn't even chip paint, didn't do a thing. And when I looked at the canopy, I was like, well, it's solid as, there's no problems with it. But maybe that's where the contributing factor it came from, and maybe that's where all these cracks started. So I will definitely put my hand up to suggest that maybe it was me that started all this. But as I said before, these cracks at the time were not evident. We looked through it all throughout, there was nothing there. The next factor that could have been an issue was the rooftop tent, being at 150 kilos. Now, TCboxes claim that the actual canopies have a 300 kilo weight limit. Whether that's for off-road or not, that could have been the major contributing cause towards that as well. Or it could just be the design of the box not being able to be chassis mounted as opposed to having a nice firm tray underneath it. So there's lots of different factors that would have caused the problems from happening. Now we've got a few little tips here that we're just going to put that the same thing that's happened to us doesn't happen to someone else, because not only is it an expensive fix, but it also is an emotional fix as well, because as I said, we've done so much traveling in the box, and also we've put our whole lives in there. It was literally our house on wheels. When selecting a trail canopy, always go beyond the surface level specs. Research the brand, look into real world situations and experiences, and ask the tough questions about off-road performance and weight limits. Pay close attention to build quality, especially when it comes to welding and design, as these can have a huge impact on the durability of the product. Finally, don't forget to factor in your vehicle's GVM and potential modifications, as too much weight or incorrect installations can lead to serious issues down the road, both in terms of performance and warranty coverage. So by taking these steps, you can make a well-informed decision and avoid common pitfalls that many people experience when modifying their vehicles. So what do we do? Repairing the canopy is definitely a possibility. All the welds need to be die grinded back out. Right angles would need to be put in all 8 corners, and then we'd have to repaint the box and then put it all back on again. So the box has been removed. Here's some footage, as you can see, of us removing the box, and then we put the factory tub back on. So this was just meant to be a short-term solution until we figure out what we're going to do. So the canopy, fixing it wasn't really a timely solution for us. We would be looking at around about end of January, just before the actual canopy could actually be repaired, because it was coming into the Christmas rush. Next, the paint would also have to go on as well, so that considering everything lines up, maybe by mid-February it would be back on the car. but then we'd have to fit it back out again, and there's not much point of just refitting it the way it was. It needed to be fitted out for a lap around Australia. And this is another factor that we were facing, and we had to be really conscious about. We had to redo the interior anyway, because it was getting very increasingly close to our GVM. We also needed to add the shower to the concept. We needed to add a whole bunch of other modifications to make it extremely comfortable whilst we travel Australia. And this is where it was getting very, very close to our GVM. Already with the rooftop tent and the configuration that we had was up at around 2.6. So we really, technically only really had about 200 kilos left over. And you never really want to be tethering with that last 100 kilograms. We're at a 2.9 GVM. We would not have liked to have been driving around cruising at all times at 2.8. It's just so much strain on the vehicle to have that much weight on it to start with, and it just wouldn't have been a very nice car to drive. Even at 2.6, it was definitely a different vehicle to drive in comparison to when we had a different configuration rooftop tent, and sitting around 2.4 ton was significantly better than driving around at 2.6. So adding another 200 kilos, which was very easy to achieve once you put your water in there, once you put your shower and everything like that, we was really tethering on the limit when it comes to the GVM. So we pretty much had a week of where we really needed to sit down, reflect, and obviously grieve over the loss of the Canopy, because at this point we was thinking we're not going to be able to have time to get all of this done. It's just not going to happen. So what are we going to do? We even looked at new vehicles. We was even thinking maybe we should just look at moving the Triton on, trade it in and get something else. We looked at the new Prado, we looked at the new Ranger, we looked at a bunch of different vehicles, and all of it came to the same sort of concept. We're going to spend so much money getting another vehicle as opposed to just using what we've got. There's nothing wrong with what we've got, we just have to change our setup. So that is what ultimately made us decide we're going to keep the Triton and we're just going to deck it out to tow a caravan. That's effectively what we're going to do. So as you can see in the footage here, the Mitsubishi Triton has completely and radically changed. So the reason we went for a PIAC rear bar, blind spot monitoring sensors are housed. You've also got the housings for the rear park sensors, and it also serves as a tow ball. Now, it is quite a heavy bar. It weighs in around about 80 kilograms. However, the previous tow ball that we had in there was about 45, 50 kilograms is what it weighed. If you weighed that up in comparison to what this new bar does and what it actually does and house and the strength and integrity of that bar, a significant upgrade. I've actually had an MQ Triton 1 off-road session and that rear bar was destroyed. So they're not the most durable things, so I think the PIAC rear bar or something similar is an excellent upgrade. The next thing is we've got an ARB canopy on the back of the Triton. This just allows us to store our gear in a dry environment, and that's pretty much all it was for. I've probably gone a little bit overboard and put a fridge in there, some lights and whatever else to really give it that nice feeling. Now, because the Triton isn't the biggest powerhouse going around, and not only that, it only has a 3.1 towing capacity, we had to be very, very selective in terms of what we chose for a caravan. First of all, it couldn't exceed any bigger than 2.5 tons. That was the absolute maximum that we could tow. The next thing, it had to be lightweight, had to be super nimble, had to be sort of small as well, but we didn't really want to have an east-west setup. We needed a north-south bed. So we were a little bit fussy, but there is one make and model out there that fits the mold for absolutely everything that we require, and that is an MDC. So an MDC SR16 Forte is the model and make that we went for. Now you're probably looking at this and thinking, yeah, but that's an on-road caravan. Realistically, we don't actually need an off-road caravan. After discussing this with multiple different people that have gone around and actually experienced the lap, they said that most of the time they never really needed an off-road caravan to begin with. They could have got away with a good, decently well-built on-road van. Now, there's a few reasons we went for the MDC. First of all, number one is price. The van is amazing. For all the features that you get for the price, comes in at 55 grand. It's absolutely phenomenal value for the caravan. Like other vans out there, especially Australian made ones, they're starting between $80,000 to $100,000. And half of them have only just got the exact same of what this particular van has got. And this is nearly half the price. The second thing, we've actually got real life experiences from lots of different couples and mates of ours that have got an MDC caravan and never had major issues. They've had little issues here and there, but nothing major that's actually stopped them from traveling around Australia. Number three, just in terms of going for a brand new van, it suits us so much better. We've got our 2 dogs as well. We've got Quinny and Rommel. Both of those are small little dogs, absolutely. However, having them in the car and having a rooftop tent, it was a logistic nightmare. This situation that's happened to us has actually created a positive. Yes, it's cost us lots out of pocket, but what is money when it comes to an amazing experience like this and being able to take our dogs with us and live our dream accordingly? So what about the canopy and the rooftop tent? Well, so the canopy itself is currently sitting at our parents' place. It's sitting in dry storage, just like the rooftop tent. When we come back around Australia, I'll be restoring that canopy back to where it was before. It will be braced in the areas it needs to be braced, over-engineered to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Whether it'll be put back on the car or whether it'll be used for another project, we have no idea at this particular point. So we're just going to get through the next 12 months. We're not going to worry about the canopy until we come back. Definitely look forward to doing another YouTube episode in regards to that in the future, of rebuilding the canopy and actually building it back up with much more structural integrity. I'll have to respray the thing as well, so this time I'll go through a more detailed rebuild process than what I've done in the past. Now, if you haven't seen our previous video where we built our canopy, go and have a look, because you can use that as a reference point. But just as I said before, make sure you're bracing it all up, making sure that everything is going to be perfectly suitable for your application. That's probably the most important thing you do before you buy the canopy. Prep side of things is very easy to do, putting the paint and all that kind of stuff on it and getting it on the back of the car. They're only simple things. Decision number 1 is to absolutely make sure that you get that canopy right the first time before you actually start work on it. And that's a wrap. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Also, reach out to us on Instagram. If you've got any further questions at all, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much.